this debate isn't about how the best way to do the moral good. It's where moral goods come from to begin with.
Yeah, so I have a friend who's an atheist, and we spent almost an entire semester just discussing nothing but morality almost. I asked him a question one day about from where does he think morality is derived ontologically, and I just wanted to kind of read his response. It's pretty short. It's from a text, so I can quote it, and I just wanted to hear what y'all would want to respond with. So he said that morality is not something people are born with. It comes from learned behaviors that they adopt by observing others. People in far-off countries who become Christians need to learn Christian moral values. It's not like they flip a switch and suddenly know right and wrong.
Okay, he's talking about epistemology, and as Greg was saying earlier, the biggest confusion people have when they talk about the issue of morality is they do not distinguish between epistemology, which is how you know something, from ontology, which is the study of the thing you're trying to know. Let me give the easiest illustration of the difference. You can pick up a book and read a book and know what the book says and deny there's an author, right? You can know what a book says and say, nobody wrote this book.
This illustration sounds familiar.
Yes.
You know where he stole it from. Go ahead.
And nobody wrote this book. But there would be no book to know unless there was an author. Right. The same thing is true when it comes to morality. You can know that, say, torturing babies for fun is wrong and say there's no God. It's just that torturing babies for fun wouldn't be wrong unless there was a God. So epistemology is how you know something. Ontology is the question, well, why does this thing called morality actually exist to begin with? And that distinction is what leads to so much confusion, or a lack of noting that distinction is what leads to so much confusion. When I asked Michael Shermer in my debate, I had a couple debates with him, I kept trying to draw the distinction between the two, and it was like he didn't recognize it. Yeah. And that for some reason, and Sam Harris runs into the same problem in his Moral Landscape book. He talks about human flourishing being the standard. Well, I might agree with Sam Harris that generally we're seeking to get human beings to flourish. But why if there's no God? Why not dolphin flourishing? Why not roach flourishing? Why not my own flourishing? I just kill everybody and take whatever I want if there's no God.
Yeah, I think Michael Shermer kept telling you that it's not what they would want happen to them.
But that's a moral position right there. They're smuggling in or stealing from God a moral standard in order to get their system to work.
This kind of thing, this happens all the time. You know, when I was talking with somebody else yesterday just about Harris's move, you know, he's smuggling in. Oh, we all agree that morality is about human flourishing. Now we can find scientific ways to determine the best way to flourish. But wait a minute, this debate isn't about how the best way to do the moral good. It's where moral goods come from to begin with. And back to the illustration, you know, I was chiding Frank about it because I've talked about this myself when Christopher Hitchens says, show me one good thing you can do as a Christian that I can't do as a non-Christian. Well, I remember one guy said, tithe, you know, like that. But the fact is, he can tithe if he wanted to, all right? What he can't do, he can't honor God, which is the greatest good in the Christian system. So there is a difference. But even so, he's missing the point. The point is not whether Christopher Hitchens can mimic the actions that Christians call good. Of course he could mimic the actions. The question is, what makes those actions good to begin with? Now, if there is a God that identifies what morality is, then the Christians can do the good things that are good, and the atheists can do the good thing that is good. But if there is no God, both the atheist and the Christians can both do those same actions, but they're not good for either of them. They are just actions. They are just activities, because goodness is an assessment of the actions. And so going back to the illustration about, you know, writers and readers, what Hitchens is saying is there are no writers. And you say, well, how can you read if there's no writers? He said, give me a book. I'll show you how well I can read. I can even read better than you can read. That's not the question, whether you can read better than I can read. The question is, where does the stuff that you read come from if there are no writers, which Frank's point. And so the reason I'm just kind of going over a similar ground is because this comes up all the time. And this confusion between knowing and how you know, whether you learn these things as you're growing up or not, like you suggested, or as you read, or whether there's some kind of innate capacity that's built in, that God builds in, that you then experience later. These are all ways of knowing it. It doesn't make the thing itself. That's the ontological question. Where did it come from? That's the question. Where did the scoring system come from? Not how do you know it? What makes the scoring system? That's the key. It's called the grounding question, or the grounding problem if you're into philosophy. But it's one that's violated all the time by these people who raise these issues about morality.